Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel, Massive Iron Live. It is what is it? Friday. We're in May 2023, I think. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the guy over here. We'll explain who the stranger is in just a minute. But before I do so, guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. For those of you tuning in that are new here, I'm here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I think this is the longest running live lifting podcast, stream, whatever, in the history of the universe. I'm just here every Friday talking lifting. No one wants to work on Friday anyway. But if you guys are new here, please don't be shy about posting up questions. I answer every question. And if your question doesn't go through, just try shortening it or try rephrasing it. YouTube can be very, very funny, and not all questions go through. So if your question doesn't go through, it's not me ignoring you. And if you tune in after live is done and you have a question, you can hit me up on Instagram, @BenTheBarman. Slide into my DM with your questions. I answer every question, every single question. All right, so before we get into things, just a reminder that if you post up a question before live starts, you get a chance to win a free Massive Iron t-shirt, hoodie, whey protein, creatine, or whatever. So I'm going to pick some random winners. Now, before we go any further and before I introduce my guest, I got some books here, okay? This is, if I can get the light right, Back to the Dirt by Frank Bill. Okay, this is Frank Bill. He's a good friend of mine. Frank is a New York Times best-selling author. I'm going to give away up to 10 copies of his book. So if you guys are interested in receiving a free copy, you don't have to pay shipping. You don't have to pay anything. If you just want to read the fucking book, message me and I'm going to send it to you. If you don't want to read it, don't message me, because it's just going to sit on your coffee table and your wife's going to throw it away or your dog's going to chew it up. So if you actually want to read this book, hit me up on Instagram @BenTheBarman, or just leave a comment and I'll hook you up. So all right, so let's introduce who we got here. We got Frank Bill, who is a friend of mine. I've known you for what, maybe 5 years now? When did Donnybrook come out?
Yeah, probably 5 or 6. Yeah, Donnybrook came out like 5 years ago. Yeah, we've known each other at least 5 or 6 years. I actually used to follow you on it was some kind of a blog type site. I can't remember what the hell it was called. You used to lift down in your basement.
Yeah, way back when. So
like
Frank,
the basement power lifter, maybe
something like that. Yeah. I've been through a few iterations of my brand, so it's hard to tell when you connected. So Frank's down in Southern Indiana, and just a little bit of background. Frank, I got a little graphic here I'm going to toss up. This is Frank's new book, Back to the Dirt, and New York Times best-selling author. It must be sweet to see that at the bottom of your book, Frank.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah.
So this was released last Friday.
Yeah.
Correct?
Tuesday, the 9th of May. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to be giving away 10 copies of this. Again, if you guys want to leave a comment or hit me up on Instagram, @BenTheBarman. Now, let's backtrack a little bit. I'm not sure, many of you might not have seen this movie. It wasn't something that like Amazon was pushing out heavy, but this is the movie Donnybrook, and it was actually filmed here locally where I live, and we got some stories regarding that. But Frank wrote the book Donnybrook, and it was turned into a movie. So those of you guys that haven't seen it, check it out. It starred Frank Grillo, and I met a couple of the other actors at the premiere, but this was your big break. This is when you really took off, wasn't it? When you had written Crimes in Southern Indiana, but how were the sales on that before this?
Well, honestly, Crimes was it went into a second printing within I think after the first month or two. I mean, for short stories, it sold really, really well. Probably both books have probably had, I'm wanting to say somewhere between four to six printings. They reprint because they do like, I think, 8 or 10,000 run on each. I think that's what it is. I haven't actually. There's a way to check it in the front of the book. They have it has the numbers. That's what those numbers in the front mean. That's how I can tell when it's went to a second, third, fourth, or fifth printing. Yeah.
So, Don, when I want to tell you how me and Frank met, Donnybrook was going to be filmed here locally, and I got the casting call to show up, and big tough me, right? I was hoping to get like one split second in the movie Donnybrook, and I think I reached out to you, because I liked the book, and I think I saw you were a trail runner, and or you had been running, so I made the connection, and they started filming. I forgot what month it was. Was that in December or was it November?
It was November. It's like, yeah, it was in November because that's when my other book also came out, the Savage. It came out the same time, so I had to travel up to Ohio for a day. Got to see a bar scene with James Landry Hebert and James Batchdale, who was the sheriff who plays Waylon. And then I came back, did a book launch here in my hometown, and then went back up for the ending of the shoot, which was like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I believe. And that was where the actual Donnybrook takes place down at the lake down there. It was over at a campsite or camping grounds or something down in Kentucky. Yeah, right on the other side of the river from you.
Yeah, so I was super excited to actually maybe get a split second of an appearance in this movie, right? And I'm like, man, it would be really nice to be in the cage. I'm this big dude. Maybe they'll throw me in the cage with Frank Grillo. And here's where I pushed out. So I got to tell this story and we'll move on. It was like 34 degrees, if I recall. Maybe I'm using that.
Yeah, because all the batteries kept going dead when they were trying to film. They had to keep switching batteries out. It got super cold.
And it was raining. And I think I had pretty much just met my wife at the time, and she was staying with me. And so it's 34 degrees, raining, and they were filming at night, all night, 2 nights in a row. And I chickened out, man. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to go down there and do that. That's too cold for me. So I missed out on my world acting premiere in your movie. If you see the scene in Donnybrook, there's so many people in there. Were you down there for that night shooting?
Yeah, we were down there every night for the last 4 days of the shooting, pretty much. Yeah, got to watch. They had to get all kind of extras. I think they had a biker club or something, like a biker gang that they actually came in as extras too. There was all kinds of. It was wild. It was crazy.
Yeah, and it looked in the movie, the scene goes by in like no time, but there's so many people out there. I'm like, I don't really feel so bad about not showing up because there was like 1 million people out there freezing their ass off. So
it was cold. It was definitely cold.
So how did it feel? How did it feel like just sitting in your office like this? And then this might be a silly question, but like having your book turned into a movie, how surreal was it watching your story on the big screen?
It was interesting. I mean, I got to hang out with the producer and the director. Everybody was really cool. I think the coolest thing is actually meeting the people who work behind the scenes to set everything up, because that gives them a job, which I didn't realize. Not that I didn't realize, but I didn't think about it. I had I think I gave 400 people a job for writing a book, and it gets sold. Everybody was thanking me, and hey, I was just as appreciative as they were. I think when I put, because you're supposed to contact, they have their little contact people you're supposed to meet them somewhere and they'll bus you in. And I'm like, just tell me where y'all are shooting at. So I just drove in right to the set, and people were like, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Frank Bill. I wrote the book." "Oh, Mr. Bill. Hey, we hear you just." I was like, no, I just want to stay everybody's way, and the food truck guy that sets up, he feeds everybody. He's asking me what I want to eat. He can cook whatever I want to eat. I mean, it was a great time. They definitely do have the best food in the world on a movie set. So
Yeah, well, my dumb ass never got to experience that.
you would have
So
enjoyed it. You would have
yeah,
enjoyed it.
so I want to move on. I want to talk about this one a little bit because I watched this from afar. This was during the pandemic, right? Where I mentioned on social media you co-authored, and I wasn't sure if that was the best way to put it, but um, Norman Reedus from guys from the Walking Dead, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So how did you get involved with this project?
Basically he's got an agent who's his agent reached out to my agent. He's got a literary agent. My agent Stacia Decker texted me, emailed me one night, and said, "Hey, would you be interested in possibly writing a book with Norman Reedus, The Walking Dead?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And they set everything up, connected us. We talked by phone for a little bit. Talked about 45 minutes. Basically, he had some character sketches of 3 different characters that he had in mind, and I kind of elaborated on them a little bit. He liked my ideas along with his ideas. We talked things out, and then our agents had to work out a deal, all that stuff contract wise. And basically, I just developed the characters, wrote the book. I'd write 25 pages, send them to him for notes and his input, and we basically either talked on the phone, texted, or emailed, and wrote a book together.
That's cool. Did you ever get to meet him in person? I remember watching it at the time, and I was seeing him kind of get around. I believe he was on some of the late night talk shows and stuff like that. And have you ever had a chance to meet him in person?
No, I mean, I wrote it during COVID. I wrote the book in like 4 months. In the contract, it said if I needed him to come to my house, I could make him come to my house. But no, I didn't.
Right.
Just because, to elaborate on things, I didn't need that. I pretty much I bothered the shit out of him for like the first 4 to 6 weeks because I was trying. One of the characters is based off of him and my cousin who served in Iraq because it's a war vet. So I wanted to know as much as far as riding a motorcycle, places he'd been, best places he'd been as far as going on rides, what his tattoos stand for, things about his family, just to incorporate as much of him into the actual character as possible. But yeah, we keep saying we're going to meet up, but this guy's like, I mean, he's in Paris now. He's been over there for almost a year shooting the new spinoff from The Walking Dead. He's a super busy guy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Speaking of busy, I mean, seeing Frank Grillo and Donnybrook, I think after Donnybrook, he's made like 742 movies. It's making me feel tired just trying to keep up with all of his movies.
That guy's all business. I mean, the entire time on the set, I got to meet him, shake his hand, get some pictures, and talk to him a little bit. But yeah, I mean, even on the set, I mean, he's constantly on his phone 24/7. But yeah, he's a busy guy. I think he's got a film company too with Joe Carnahan. The guy did Smoking Aces.
Yeah. So this is me and you. I'd toss this in here. I have the Savage. You got Donnybrook. It was a pleasure to meet you, and it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. And
Oh yeah.
I want to dive into a little bit. You're a lifter and a runner. We'll talk about that a little bit. But for those of you guys tuning in that aren't, don't worry, I'm going to get to your questions. I just want to have my buddy Frank Bill on for a little bit to talk about his book because I'm super proud of him. Man, just watching you, sit there. I've been there in your office, and you're just sitting there in your office and watching you, reach a decent level of success. It's just been fun to watch, and you're a good guy. And if any of you guys want a copy of Frank's new book, Back to the Dirt, please hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman. I have 10 copies to give away, and no strings attached. I'll pay for shipping. I don't care if it's to Singapore or wherever. I'll pay for the shipping. Doesn't bother me. So if you want a copy, just hit me up on Instagram, DM at Ben the Barman, or email me, benthebarman.com. So just real quick, I want to talk about lifting and running and your physical pursuits and your love for physical culture, so to speak. But Can you kind of give us an idea what this book is about, Frank?
It's basically about a blue collar working class guy who's a Vietnam veteran. He's fighting age, and it's about what he's carried with him from fighting in the Vietnam War. He was a Marine, a landmine sweeper, which is an engineer with a tanker brigade, which is based off of my father. The factory parts based off of me, and my father worked in a factory. I also worked in a tobacco plant, but it pulls a lot of the interviews I did with my dad, the time he served over there, not getting his Purple Heart till like 53 years later, some of the injuries that he incurred, but still kept on fighting. Loading the dead onto the helicopters and stuff, and then going back into combat. He fought in an operation called Operation Allenbrook, which I wanted to write about in the book in the second part, but I never did get back over to interviewing about all of that. And I thought about writing a major essay or investigative piece to talk to him and one of the other guys that he served with, Tony de Blasio, who lives up in Pennsylvania. But yeah, it basically deals with him trying to find his girlfriend goes missing. He's trying to find her. She's a stripper. She's a lot younger than him. And he gets into a dispute with one of the guys in the opening of the book at his factory where he works, who owes him his next cycle of steroids. And he's trying to hold out on him. He keeps telling him he'll get him next week, get him tomorrow, get him next week. And he's already taken his money. He hasn't gotten his cycle yet. So he ends up having a little disagreement with him, beats his ass, and makes him take him to this actual supplier, and kind of goes off the rails from there as he's hunting for his girlfriend, who may or may not be involved in a murder. So it deals a lot with other than the things we carry from both sides because of the girlfriend and Miles, and then post-traumatic stress and physical abuse, mental health. It kind of correlates all that into being a blue collar guy, and what you carry every day. Just life, things are complicated in many ways. It's just not about hand to mouth of feeding yourself. There's always all these other things that come on, and Miles kind of carries a lot of dark passengers with him. It's his luggage from what he's seen all those years ago in the war, and all the people he's seen pass away and die. It's the same thing my dad dealt with. His question was always, like he told me, why did they die and I didn't? It's one of those, like, I guess survivor's guilt was what you might call it.
Right. Yeah, I haven't read it yet. I've been waiting to have a good. I've been waiting to talk to you about it first and to dive in. We've been moving the last month, so I've been waiting for to have some good brain time where I can actually dive in and read it cover to cover. I read the first chapter, but I want to dive in and give it the full run. My father was in Vietnam, served 2 tours. He passed away last year. One of the things I like about your books is that they're like, I connect with the blue collar. I connect with I connect with just normal life, the normal. I don't know how to say it right, Frank, but it's not like it feels like I'm reading a story that happened to somebody I knew in my life, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's how I grew up. It's the world I grew up in, the kind of people I grew up around. It doesn't. I'm not reading some fantastic fantasy book. It's a good man book. You know what I'm saying? It's.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of, like, Harry Cruz or Larry Brown. There's always the masculinity concept that, or I should say concept, but the complex of masculinity, because I write from a male perspective. And as you mentioned, because I pull from things that actually happened to me in real life, or people I know, been associated with, stories I've heard. So I always incorporate it in everything I write,
The reason why I mention that is, like, in our world, in my world, at least, a lot of the lifters, I like to mention this might be the type of book they would like to read. This is
definitely. Oh yeah. Definitely.
If you're not a big reader, this is still the type of book you'd like to read. Even Donnybrook. Donnybrook, can you give us a brief synopsis of Donnybrook?
Yeah, basically it's about a bare knuckles boxing tournament. It's supposed to be the best one in the backwoods. And a guy Jarhead Earl, who's basically just trying to take care of his family, has the chance to win $100,000 that could take care of everything he has, family wise, with his wife and kids. And he's done these these back bar room outside bare knuckles boxing tournaments they would have to win money, and he's never been beaten. So he ends up traveling to the Donnybrook that's hosted once a year, and it's held by a guy named Belmont McGill. Pretty much owns the county and all the real estate in the county, and holds this tournament every year. But he also lets people sell drugs, crystal meth, and there's another unbeaten fighter who's Chainsaw Angus, who's like a master fighter who's never been beat also, but he's also a master meth cook, and he gets ripped off and he's left for dead, and he's basically going to chase the person who left him for dead to the Donnybrook because they're going there to sell all the meth that he cooked. So yeah, it's a wild. I can't name all the characters because there's so much,
Right.
so much into it. I mean, even that came from a guy that I grew up with that never had done drugs, never drank. He was a high school basketball star. He gets out of high school and graduate, and once he gets hooked on meth, starts cooking it, has a house fire, loses his family and everything. And I kind of based a lot of that around just that normal little interaction that he had because of the house fire, because it was in the newspapers around here. And then I ended up interviewing an actual guy who cleaned his life up, who had been a meth cook also, and got the recipe from him. It's just all these little intricacies that always kind of crossed my path. And then I'd ran around with a Latino gangbanger when I was in high school that used to get meth in the mail before it was even big around here. So, I mean, there's just all these things that I incorporate into my writing. And then me studying martial arts and boxing and Muay Thai and Chinese Kung Fu and all that. And one of the main guys in the story is Fu, who's based on one of my Chinese martial arts teachers.
So I got about 10 more minutes with you, and I want to ask you about. I want to start chasing you down that rabbit trail a little bit. For those of you guys watching, I'm going to jump into your questions. So as soon as we're done talking with Frank Bill, you mentioned Chinese martial arts and martial arts. What is your background? We were talking a little bit before we hopped on. You're lifting like 5 days a week right now.
Yeah.
You were also a trail runner, not doing that as much right now, but when did you really get into, were you always into physical activity?
Yeah, since I was probably 11 years old. Yeah. I mean, I'd always been out in the woods building fires and hunting, but I started studying Taekwondo when I was like 11 years old, got a black belt when I was 15. Then when I turned 18, I started studying Chinese martial arts. I'd met a guy in the lumber yard who taught. He just said, I approached him one day, and he said, well, if you're interested, this is where I teach. I handpick my students. If you show up, you do. If you don't, you don't. He taught out of a park over in Louisville, Kentucky. Showed up and kept going to him, and I trained with him for about 6 years. And he always talked about a guy named John Ing, and I ended up going searching out John Ing for about a year. And in between searching John out, I ended up studying other disciplines until I could find him. I studied jiu-jitsu, jeet kune do, Wing Chun, boxed and Muay Thai for about 6 months. It was more about picking up other training habits,
right,
and physical conditioning, and that got me into running when I was boxing. So
So you don't mess around with any of the martial arts right now?
No, when I hit 40, I mean, you're beating on a heavy bag and just other things. It was too much. I couldn't do everything. Plus I started writing. So
right.
It was like I had to give something up, and I knew I could always lift weights, and I knew when I needed to, I can get out. Movement's the most important thing, even if it's, when I'm writing, I'll write for a little bit. I'll get up and do 20 to 40 push-ups and then sit back down, or do some air squats, in between, just so I constantly keep some kind of movement going, keep the blood flow, that kind of thing.
Well, I'm 55, and last year I got the bug in my ass too. Like I'm going to go do a martial art for the first time in my life. So this is no lie. I signed up. This is an old man story. You'll probably get a kick out of it. I signed up. I went down to a jiu-jitsu place, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give this a try. I'm just carrying my balls in on a platter. Like, we're going to go get this. We're going to go try this. And I went and talked to him. I was supposed to go there that Tuesday for my first class. And the following day after I talked to him, I was walking down the stairs to take my dog out. and I twisted my knee so badly it took me 8 months. I thought I was going to need knee surgery just walking down the stairs. Right. So, like I posted on social media, I'm going to try jujitsu, and I took a picture at the, at the facility, and then literally the next day I tore something in my knee just walking down the stairs. That's a classic old man injury, right? So trail running. I know you used to be out more regular, right? How many? I mean, when I was doing my trail running, I was following you a little bit, and used to be out on the trails quite often, correct?
Yeah, usually 3 or 4 days a week. I was putting in somewhere between 25 to 30 miles a week. I used Brian McKenzie's method of training, which is, one day you incorporate some sprints into your work, and then another day you do hill repeats, and then you do a long run on your third day. And like when I do it, sprints would basically be like a 5 to 7 mile day. In the first 2 or 3 miles, I would do 30-second sprints, 1 or 2 minutes rest until I hit that couple of miles, and then I'd finish off to get the rest of my mileage in. And I did the same thing with the day on hill repeats. I do 2 to 3 miles of hill repeats, and then finish off with 3 to 4 miles of a lower impact run or jog. And then the long mileage day would be somewhere between 12 to 15 miles, and I incorporated everything into that. So, and that would always put me right around 25 or 30 miles a week. And it really builds, the hills build up your strength and endurance, and then the sprints really build up the lung capacity, and then the long run kind of incorporates everything. And when I trained for a 50 miler, I didn't run over 30 miles a week, and I had no problem doing it. We did it in like probably the worst conditions possible with thunderstorms and tornadoes that day. But
Yeah, that was a
my whole thing is I just like getting out into the woods because I grew up on a farm. I just like being out in the nature, and that whole just the challenge of it. I don't care if you got to walk all of it. I like the challenge, I guess, more or less.
I remember that day because I remember I believe it was muddy as hell, like raining and just a mud hell. And like I forget the city, but I'm pretty sure I ran on that trail. And
Down in Kentucky Lake, I believe it is. I think somebody else bought that property, so they don't have that run at that place anymore. They put it somewhere else because the property got bought up by some other real estate.
yeah, but I was crying for you the whole way, man, because I knew like you were going to be running in mud for like 50K. That was your first 50K race, right?
50 miles.
Oh,
Yeah, I've done
50 miles. Sorry.
50K. Yeah, the 50K was at it's still over here in Indiana. So yeah, they still have it every year in December. It's the first Saturday of December. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in some rough runs, but never a complete mud slog for 50 miles.
50 miles, you were going up hills that were like 900 to 1,000 feet, on the incline, and then the mud was up over your ankles for like 3 to 4 miles at a time. And you get out for a mile or two, and then get right back into it. It was wild because what it was is they were using they were ATV trails. They had everything cleaned up and made to where you could run on it, and then they had to actually redirect the trails when the rains and stuff started because it screwed everything up the day before. There was people that actually quit. People signed up for 100 miles and decided that when they hit 50, they were done.
You are you familiar with the Barkley marathons?
Oh yeah.
Gary Robbins, the guy that was featured in a couple of the documentaries. He was my running coach. I'm not sure if you know that, for a while. And the only reason I'm mentioning that is because anybody on Team Massive or anybody I've helped with running, he gave me kind of the same approach you had. One day we wouldn't do sprinting, but we would do surging, which was like go out and do 2-3 miles and then do a surge for like 30 seconds to 60 seconds, which was a speed below sprint.
Yep.
And then chill for like a minute to 2 minutes and then repeat. So he had me doing that and hill repeats and running. Saturday was my long run. But so it's curious, I've been coached by a couple different running coaches, and then to hear your experience, they all kind of coach the same way. It seems, at least.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the name. I can't remember. Brian McKenzie wrote a book on it. I can't remember what it was called. I think it's Unbreakable or Unbreakable Runner. I like Brian McKenzie. I follow him on, he he's big into the whole breath work, the nose breathing thing now, but he incorporated a lot of things from introducing CrossFit to running, helped out a lot of gyms, and then helped people understand that they didn't need to run 100 miles a week to run a 100 miler, or 50 miles a week to run a 50 miler, because
Right.
he had been a runner at one time. And that's why I say, it was just kind of breaking your body down for no reason. But when he incorporated lifting and then the other types of interval training for running, it kind of built that machine up a lot better and almost injury free. I've never had any injuries from running. Um, I think I can equate that because I've always lifted weights. I
Well,
think,
I was just going to chase you down that rabbit trail because I'm not a dainty little ballet dancer. I'm bigger than when we met. A little bit, and when I started getting out on the trails, that Christmas story with you'll shoot your eye out where he wants a Red Ryder BB gun. Uh,
yes.
everybody was like, "You're gonna run, you'll shoot your eye out, kid." Like everybody kept waiting for disaster to strike. But I ran 7,500 kilometers in 3 years, 3 or 4 years. Never had one injury, never once. And looking back, I kind of, and this is just my educated guess, but 35 years of lifting, tendon strength, connective tissue strength,
And
like,
bones.
yeah, I think that had a lot to do with injury prevention.
I guarantee it did. I mean, that's the most important thing. I mean, I try to tell people, like, when they get older. I mean, it doesn't matter when you start lifting, but if you want to, like, powerlifting, you don't have to be a world power lifter, but lifting heavy for the squat, deadlift, the bench press is going to build your bone mass unbelievably, and it's going to help stave off osteoporosis. And then walking, you don't have to run. Go out and walk 30 minutes a day. Most people, when they decide to start walking, it becomes almost like an addiction because you feel so much better. The first 10 minutes, once you get past clearing everything out of your head, your brain starts working, the dopamine kicks, you get air circulating, you get the blood flow. And it also helps with osteoporosis, but there was a guy on a podcast I listened to who was talking about, he was a personal trainer, and he would always try to get older people to come to the gym, and he would take them when they would show up, he'd show them the gym section. He'd show people were lifting weights, and they were intimidated. And he's like, don't be intimidated, And one lady who had osteoporosis basically got rid of it because she started powerlifting. And her doctor actually wanted to contact the gym owner and said, what did you do for her? He's like, I showed her how to lift weights, just the basic 3 movements. And that's what she does now. And the other thing he did was he showed one of the other trainers to her because she was worried. He says, well, if I lift weights, I'll get big. I'm going to bulk up or whatever. It's like, no, it's not that easy to put on muscle. And
Right.
unless you're using juice, you're only going to be able to put on a certain amount of muscle mass anyway, naturally. And then even when you use juice, there's only a certain amount you're able to put on. And then you really have to dig down even deeper, running yourself in the ground almost just to keep putting on and shooting more and shooting more, which.
I was kind of an accidental power lifter, and I got into it, in my 40s. But one thing I learned is, like, older women, when I say older, I mean like 40 or over, if you get them into powerlifting, not necessarily the sport, but just the pursuit of the barbell lifts,
Oh yeah, big 3. It's all you need.
they look they're strong, they look good, they're not, they might not be low in body fat, but they're healthier, they're usually they're more well-rounded as far as their strength and their health. I mean, they usually develop the mental strength, attitude, and the physical strength. They kind of become a force of nature a little bit. Their life just completely turns around.
Right. And one of the things, like, I don't know, Jim Steele, I mean, that's one of the things he talks about as you get older, it's going to help you. It helps your mobility. The thing that people, as they get older, they lose is their hip mobility. They can't sit up, stand up or sit down. If they fall down, they can't get back up. Squatting and deadlifting pretty much takes care of that. You're strengthening your hips, your thighs, it's an important thing. And as you said, it also helps keep your natural shape, because as we get older, we start eating all this processed shit, and you start putting on weird fat in different places that you normally wouldn't be putting on. But it's because when you take in processed food, exercise doesn't take care of everything, but you're taking in chemicals that normally wouldn't be in your body, and your body doesn't know how to process that, so it just stores it as fat, and you've got to try to burn that off. But that's the other thing, is trying to get in a decent diet. I think if you can eat at least 80% well on top of the lifting, at least 2 days a week. I went to 5 days a week just because I wouldn't be able to get my runs in, because I'm having to go somewhere else, which is 10 or 15-minute drive. I can go right outside to my shed where I lift weights, and I can get it knocked out. I don't have to leave the house.
So I want to circle back on one point you mentioned about running, and then talk to you about nutrition a bit, and then I'll let you go. You mentioned, uh, you don't have to run as much as you think to do the longer distances.
No.
I was kind of an idiot. We just decided one day we're going to run 2 hours a week, five times, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Right. So we were running like 10, 12 hours a week, and we did okay, but I backed down, and I backed down from that volume, and I still was able to run the same in my longer runs. But the point I wanted to ask you about, like when somebody comes to me and they want to run like a half marathon or longer, I tell them, if you can pretty much run an hour straight, you can pretty much run a marathon. Because your conditioning level is good enough, you can sustain the running. Beyond like that, it's a lot of mental strength. Would you agree?
To a point. The other problem is going to be if they're not. I think if you're lifting weights, it's not going to be as bad. But the problem usually is your joints, and getting used to be on your feet. I think that's the most important thing. Is even if I always say walk and jog. Start off whenever you run. You should walk and jog, because it's really about time on your feet. Especially whenever you're doing an ultra. Some people aren't used to being on their feet that long. Well, whenever you've built leg strength up and overall body conditioning from lifting weights, on top of being on your feet for that excessive amount of time, yeah, an hour at a time is good. That's a good recommendation.
So let's talk about nutrition. How do you eat? I mean, obviously, you've been able to maintain your weight. You must have some sort of not a plan, but you must have some sort of structure or uh, you know plan that you stick to, or rules that you stick to maintain your weight and maintain your health. How is your eating right now?
It's probably about 80-20. I've done for all the ultra runs I did took the keto or low carb approach. And a lot of people think that when you do that, you're going to take in fat when you run for a long distance, and that's not what it is. You're basically dropping your insulin levels down, your carbohydrate storage, all that stuff, and then whenever you go to run, you implement the sugars back into your diet, which helps you not have to take in as much, but it helps reload that while you're running to give you that extra burst of energy, while also hopefully pulling from your fat stores, because it works. I mean, I never had any problems using it. I never got low on energy or anything. It's just a matter of getting, I guess, what they call fat adapted. My diet now is pretty much animal protein with vegetables. I use and white rice. I use white rice every other week. I use I like yellow potatoes over white potatoes because white potatoes are dry. So that's pretty much the typical day for me is I get up, I have a serving or two of hash browns mixed with either avocado oil or olive oil or duck fat, and then I'll have 3 or 4 regular eggs over a salad of kale and Brussels sprouts that are all shredded up with some broccoli, and then put olive oil, not dressing, but olive oil over it with vinegar, apple cider vinegar. I'm sorry, 2 or 3 tablespoons of that. That's good for pushing everything out. And then that's usually breakfast. And then I'll have, maybe for a snack, I'll have some high fat, high protein yogurt with blueberries, because I always have just a couple of fruits that I pick, and it's usually berries and green apples. I like green apples with peanut butter, and then my other meal is usually some type of vegetable with red meat. I'm pretty simple. And if it's not a vegetable, it's white rice with red meat. I just kind of eat the same things every day. Yeah, I'll have the slice of pizzas, a couple times a month. Reese's cups every now and then. I mean, I think everybody likes chocolate and peanut butter, but I usually try to do like buy my own dark chocolate and mix that with whatever type of peanut butter I want or almond butter. And then I eat a lot of different types of I use almonds, pecans. I love pecans, pistachios, walnuts. Yeah, I mean, that's.
I was going to say we're pretty similar in what we eat. You know, from the running side of things, when I was always, when I lost my weight, I was a lower carb guy.
Yeah.
Mostly because I was a binge eater and I tried to stay away from carbs, you know, so because that was my poison. I'm not anti-carb.
No, I'm not either.
But
I've just tried everything to see what works the best. But yeah, when you lower your insulin, it helps you pull the fat out of your diet, drink lots of water, and you're flushing your system out. But then when you're trying to lift heavier and you're wanting to put on a little bit more muscle mass, you got to have that insulin in order to drive those proteins and amino acids into the muscle and you know, fill everything out.
right.
I've probably put on 15 pounds since the last time you saw me, just because I'm not running. When I run, I just can't keep weight on. My
Right.
natural weight's somewhere between 135 and 140, and I'm probably right between 140 and 145 right now. But
I
I
tend
can
to
pull over 300 pounds in the deadlift and squat over 300 pounds whenever I'm, you know, when I'm around this weight. When I get on 130 pounds, man, it's hard for me to even squat 280 pounds just because you don't have that strength there. Because, you know, in powerlifting, it's all about how much you eat anyway. The more you eat, the more you can lift. So.
They're going crazy. They're going crazy. Yeah. So when I was running, I was kind of doing the same thing, you know, just doing carbs around the runs or longer runs. And it really served me well. We eat kind of the same foods every day. I never used to be a big potato guy, but last couple of years I'm lazy. So I'm doing a lot of instant potatoes. So my day is like animal and plant-based. And then for dinner, I'll have either rice or potatoes with my greens and my meat. So pretty similar.
Oh, yeah.
So, Frank, I'm going to let you go. We've been about 45 minutes, and I appreciate it. And I got to get on.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
And I want to encourage you guys, if you want a free copy of Frank's book, his newest book, Back to the Dirt, hit me up on Instagram. I'm going to put that banner up again. Hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman, or email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. Just send me your name, your phone number, your email, your address. I have 10 copies to give out. And the first 10 people that want it, I'm going to send you a copy. I don't care where you're at in the world. It's on me. And if you get it,
you'll get book plates too with an autograph. Don't forget that.
Oh, I forgot about that. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, you'll get an autographed book plate to go in the book. So you'll get my signature if that means anything to anybody.
Yeah, I forgot about it. So Frank, before we go, can you tell everybody where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. On Instagram, I think it's Frank/M/Bill, and then the same thing on Facebook. So yeah, I'm not on Twitter. I actually got off of social media for about 3 years, but since the new book came out, I thought I need to get back on there. So
yeah, I gotta tell you, man, when you I'm not a big Facebook guy. I go on there to see what my mom's doing and what Frank Bill's doing. But like when you left Facebook, I was like in depression because it was like you were one of the few people on Facebook I actually, I was like watching your career, watching how your books are doing. Then you were gone. I'm like, man, I'm so depressed. Frank's not on Facebook anymore. I actually deactivated Facebook for like 4 months during the pandemic. Then when I saw you came back, I was excited.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I got off there for like 3 years. I guess when you deactivate your account, you still get messages, because when I opened my account back up, it popped right up and had all these messages from people. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, I don't want. Yeah, it get kind of nasty. All right, man. Thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon. Or thanks for joining us, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Take it easy, Steve. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys, let's get into your questions. I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you listening to my discussion with my good friend Frank Bill. And if you want a copy of the book, again, you can hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman, at Ben the Barman. All right, let's dive into things. Just a reminder If you post a question before live starts, you get a free chance to win I have a new gym bag, a massive iron gym bag. And if you want to check it out, you can go to my website, superlivingtoday.com, and check out the gym bag. I can show you guys that real quick if you want to see it, and then we'll dive into questions. So let me just pull up the screen here if I can find it. Where are we at? Your entire screen, opera tag. There we go. Now, if you head over to my website and you search gym, let's just search gym. All right, here it is right here. I got the new massive iron gym bag. This thing, my cost is $56. I'm never trying to make a killing off this stuff, just making a couple bucks. And this is a pretty big bag that can store a lot of crap. So guys on Team Massive Iron were asking about the gym bag. And if you're interested, just let you know, they are available on my website, superlivingtoday.com. If I pick you as a winner, one of your questions, you can pick the gym bag if you want. So let's see it going. Timothy, how's it going, Timothy? What is the difference between different zones of cardio? I've heard some mention zone 2. I've looked it up, and apparently there's 5 zones or something like that. Well, here's this is the way I think of it, and this is kind of my system based off my running coach, the way he explained it to me. And I'm sure there's other systems and there's other ways to define running zones. But here's the kind of stupid, simple way I process things. Zone 1 is walking, right? Zone 4 is sprinting as fast as you can go, not very sustainable, maybe for 10 seconds. So you have zone 1 walking, zone 4 sprinting at like your peak speed, not very sustainable. Zone 2 would be running at conversational pace. If we were running side by side, we'd be able to hold a conversation. Zone 3 is between conversational pace and sprinting. So zone 3 is what Frank, Bill, and I were talking about a little bit before in running training. It's something you could sustain for like 30, 60, even 90 seconds. So what do these zones have to do with cardio? Well, I mean, you don't have to overthink cardio. Just get out there and move, number one. Take care of your body, get in your movement, get in your steps, do the form of cardio you like. And if you want to get your heart rate up, kind of kick it up to zone 3, for like 30 to 60 seconds, and then let it come down for a couple, 60, 90, 120 seconds, and then kick it back up to zone 3. So basically, if you're on an elliptical or Stairmaster or, just walking up hills, it would be something that would really get your heart rate elevated, but that you could sustain for like 30 to 120 seconds, if that makes sense. All right, Timothy, tips for setting up incline dumbbell bench and dumbbell bench in general. People, the only negative thing I see people do, and I saw Sean Nalawani talk about this today or yesterday on Instagram, is sometimes people try to flip the dumbbells up here from the start. I put them on my thighs, and then I lift my knees up and I just rock back with them against my chest like that. That's the only real thing I do. And then I let them settle in down here. I wouldn't recommend trying to flip them up and get them into place from here. I think that's inherently dangerous. Yvonne from Team Massive, how's it going, Yvonne? How long after being sick would you recommend to wait before resuming normal training? My general recommendation, and I'm not trying to be your dad here and tell you what to do, but my general recommendation is whenever you think you feel better, probably wait another day. Make sure your immune system can get back up to speed. That extra day, get in maybe some extra carbs, get some glycogen in the muscles, get your water in, get hydrated, get some electrolytes in, sodium and potassium, and get some extra rest. It's not going to hurt you to have an extra rest day. The only thing that's really going to hurt you in the long run is when you're taking weeks and weeks and weeks away from training. For the deadlift 10-minute block protocol, with a rep goal of 14 reps, what would you say is a good starting weight? Usually about 70% of your deadlift max. So if your deadlifting max is approximately 300, maybe about 210, 70%, that would be fine. And that's a safe place to start. It might feel too light on the first workout, but you can kind of, build into things. You want to get used to the protocol over 2 to 3 weeks anyway. So just kind of ease into things and, build up from there. I wouldn't go over 20 reps. If it feels too light and you get 20 reps, you might as well just shut it down. Don't turn it into like a cardio session. I've often heard people say, don't try to run the full marathon distance when training for a marathon. No, this is something Frank, Bill, and I were just talking about. You want to develop a reasonable degree of sustainability when it comes to endurance. And you also want to have that mental strength. You want to have that mental confidence that you can rip off a marathon at any time. It's not going to be fun necessarily, but you'd be able to do it. So I find if I can run 2 hours straight, I can run anything. I'm a trail runner. I like being on the trails. I like running on the trails. And those types of runs take longer. They're not, you have all different kinds of challenges, rocks and roots and hills and weather and, God knows what else. But I think if you can run for 2 hours straight, you can pretty much, mentally run anything. That's just my opinion. Stein, happy Friday. Stein, thanks for tuning in. Danny, what do you think of someone following the high volume, old school, full body workouts of Steve Reeves? I would say this, there's nothing wrong with it, but know that some of these guys lifted professionally, meaning that was their life and they had all the time in the world. And a lot of these old school guys, from my understanding, would take their time between sets. They'd have really long workouts. I believe Doug Hepburn was drinking milk in between sets, and I believe his workouts were taking 3-4 hours. So understand going in, if you're going to try one of these old school workouts, you might have to tame the volume a little bit. They're not full of junk volume. I mean, the cornerstone of training is we want to be focused on training hard. If we're not focused on training hard, then we're just doing junk volume. And some volume is okay if we're just trying to sustain or maintain, right? That's okay. It's okay to do a little bit of conditioning volume if you want, but there has to be some degree of work in the mix where you're focused on training hard. Does that make sense? Timothy, how do you differentiate between lower back pain and soreness? Well, pain is pain. If you're just generally stiff or sore, that's okay. There's different things that cause lower back issues. Poor form, or subpar form, or even just the lower back being the weak muscle group in the chain can cause issues. So it's very nuanced, Timothy. I can't, sit here and tell you what's good and bad. If it's usually gone within a day, then it's probably normal lower back soreness. If it's lingering or cumulative fatigue, I wouldn't call that pain. I would call that probably lower back weakness, and all the volume of work you're doing that is working your lower back is probably causing some cumulative fatigue, if that makes sense. Rasam, hello, Steve. I hope you're well. Thank you, sir. What do you think about training in the morning? Training in the morning is a different beast, man. I mean, I would say this, if you're going to train in the morning, the best mindset you can have is like, I'm going to lock in for 3-4 months and give this a go. You can't just do it for a day or two because you'll be like, screw this, right? You will completely be like, man, this is different. It's a whole different world for most people. And you really got to give it time, and you got to acclimate to the nuances, because you're waking up, you're low on water, you're low on electrolytes. Your body's still trying to phase out of that sleep cycle. Your central nervous system really doesn't get up to full speed until the afternoon. So you're pretty much starting in this big hole. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have productive training, but you just have to kind of give yourself some time to mentally and physically adapt to the differences. If you're going to train in the morning, what I recommend you do is you get up and you have water straight out of bed. Get up, urinate, have some water. Get some water in your system immediately. And you might want to put a little bit of sodium in your water. Sodium is a necessary electrolyte, and it can really impact your energy. So if you're going to train first thing in the morning, you might want to have a little bit of sodium with your water. And you might want to have some simple carbs straight out of bed. Nothing extreme, right? Something fast digesting, nothing that's going to sit in your belly during the workout. You can get things like honey stingers, or they're these little chews you can get on Amazon. They're like gummy bears. They're like 120, 130 calories. They have caffeine. Really easy to eat, really easy to digest. Something like that's probably not a bad idea either. And Rassem, I'm going to give you a t-shirt, hoodie, whatever you want. Hit me up on Instagram at BenTheBarman, or email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. I'll give you a hoodie, t-shirt, gym bag, whey, creatine, whatever you want. Pick one. What can you advise me to eat before going to my morning workout? I think I just covered that a little bit. You don't want to go on your workout on a full stomach. You want to go on your workout hydrated with a little bit of sodium, a little bit of simple carbs maybe. You can try it fasted if you want. That's fine. But I would definitely do water straight out of bed and maybe a little bit of sodium. There's no downside to that. And let me get a drink here. And if you want a little bit of simple sugars, I would take them straight first thing in the morning. If you don't want to do simple sugars, you want to do plant-based stuff, you could have a banana, something that's a little bit more substantial. Timothy, and more broadly, how do we tell if something is just a minor ache strain? You'll be able to tell, Timothy. I mean, I get this question all the time. How do I know if something's a major or minor? If it lingers, you're going to pick up minor aches and strains along the way. That's part of lifting. That's part of physical activity. And, they generally, some of them can last a week. So you can have more noteworthy strains and pains and issues. But, if something is lingering, for an extended period of time, or it keeps re-aggravating, that's when you probably should see a doctor about it. Adam's family, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. Does the conventional deadlift have any performance carry over to barbell rows? These lifts are going to have some synergy. They're in the same family, right? Yes, the barbell row is not a hip hinge, but if you have a strong barbell row, if you can, at my peak, my pendlay row is 405 by 5. If I can pendlay row 405 by 5, I'm going to be able to deadlift a lot of weight, right? Because I can row it, so I'm going to be able to deadlift it. So there's a lot of carryover from row strength to deadlift strength. And we kind of discount this a little bit. Hey, buddy boy. Come here, buddy boy. My good friend. But, there's going to be carryover the other way. If you can deadlift, if your yoke can handle a big beefy deadlift, you're going to be able to barbell row more. So there's good synergy between these lifts. That's one reason you want to make everything strong. How do you program the chest on a 3-day full body? I don't have an incline bench. There are different things you can do. You can do dumbbell flies. You can do barrel press, which is the next advancement or next progression. You can do dumbbell bench. You can do alternating dumbbell bench if you want to get fancy. You can do regular chest press. You can even do a guillotine press, which I talked about recently. So those are some good quality lifts. You can incorporate push-ups at home. You could do supersets of like bench and push-ups or barrel press and push-ups. You could even get a TRX unit for your door. And sometimes I would do TRX push-ups. So I like to think of full body training when I'm picking my movements, picking 3 that are like big, medium, and small, right? Something that's what's your big hitter? Maybe it's bench. Okay. Obviously it's probably bench. Your intermediate hitter could be dumbbell bench, could be dips. It could even be barrel press, right? And what's your lower level? Maybe you want to do a combination of dumbbell flies and a superset of push-ups. You could do something like that as well. And I typically, I like to rotate these a little bit. So I'm doing big hitter, little hitter, and then moderate. So I like to kind of keep that rotation: big, little, moderate, big, little, moderate. That's just my preferred way of tackling exercise rotation on a full body. Your cut seems to be progressing pretty smoothly. Last month we've been lifting or moving. We've been moving house. So I only lost like 4 pounds in the last 4 to 6 weeks. It's going. It's just we've had so many distractions. Would you say there's still a struggle with binge eating? I don't binge eat anymore. I'm done. I just don't. I'm not tempted to. I don't want to. I don't like the feeling. I just simply never binge eat. I can't even remember. I haven't had a major binge eating episode probably in 8-9 years. So I've trained myself to not like it. I just don't like it. I don't like feeling full. It's just not a part of my life. So I think I've definitely overcome it. I know it's very risky for an addict or an addiction to say you've overcome it, but I can say with certainty 100% I've overcome it. I don't want to be that guy. I've tasted what it's like to be on the other side. I don't like feeling full. I don't like those types of foods. They make me feel crappy. I don't like that lifestyle. It's not just me saying words. It's just I don't. With regards to rep goal progression on compounds, is it better to add 5 pounds once or well, there's no better really. Always remember that whether you microload a half pound, a pound, I mean, if you go really ridiculous and microload a half pound, or you go aggressive and just do 5 pounds, it's not going to make any difference over the long run because you're attacking, right? You're focused on hard training, and whatever you microload, as long as it's not ridiculous. I mean, we don't want to microload like a 1/4 pound on bench press. That's just flat out silly. But as long as it's reasonable, progression is going to take you to the same place over time. It really will. Big Dallas, with regards to working out 2 days a week versus 3 in a year, how much difference in there's no formula here. Here's the reality, Dallas. Let me see if I can explain this better. If you took a newbie would have the potential to gain about maximum 16 pounds of muscle the first year. I'm not talking about an underweight individual. I'm talking about just like an average beginner in a perfect world, crushing everything, lifting, nutrition, form, everything. Most people aren't going to get 16. It's very, very rare. It's very rare to have all the stars align. Perfect training, perfect attitude, perfect motivation, perfect nutrition, perfect health. So 8 to 10 is a reasonable goal the first few years, right? Um, with that in mind, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, if you're training hard and you're giving it, you're going to see quality muscle gain. Is there going to be much of a difference? You know, I don't think it's as big as people think. Um, what would I expect if I was training 2 days a week? Number one, I'd remind myself this is a short term solution. It's not a long term solution. It's just a temporary state, and that's okay. I would expect first thing, I'd just be killing it. I would do everything I could to kill it. I wouldn't ask myself what percentage of muscle gains can I get relative to 3 or 4 days a week. I would go in there with the attitude, I'm going to get everything I can out of it. It's not like you're going to get 8 pounds on a 3 day and only 1.5 on a 2 day. No, the difference will be minimal, in my opinion. Nothing you need to worry about. Big Bad Bubba. Is there any use in measuring biceps? For fun. Pump measurements are great, but they're not sustainable. And it's nice to know what your bicepticons, your arms are pumped, but I've done it before. It adds size, but you know what? It's fun to know. That's about it, right? James, if you don't have, excuse me, let me get a drink. All right. If you don't have an adjustable bench and a low ceiling, can I do overhead press without back support? You can. I've done it before. I would probably start it on a pin, like a pin press, get under it, press up, maybe drop it down, get under it, press up, or you can sustain after that first one. I would start from like a pin press position right here. So you get under it, get your elbows under it, get that lower back braced, start properly. I wouldn't want to unrack and then kind of bring it down. So I think starting from a pin press position is probably your best bet. Where are you now on intermittent fasting on a mini cut? Goal is to have more calories later in the day. I've done variation. Mostly, I'm not an intermittent faster, but I tend to eat less during the day. I find it, for me, I'm not trying to make rules for you guys, but for me, I find it, I like a bigger meal at the end of the day. You got to work with, your body and what you like. So I think for most of us, especially if we're having problems with our weight or with eating or eating too much or making bad choices, it's better off eating a little bit less during the day. You leave yourself a little bit more of a padding. You leave yourself a little bit more room for error at the end of the day. If you eat a lot right out of the gate, like a super big breakfast and a lunch, you're not leaving a lot of room in the evening, right? And then if you get to like 8 o'clock at night and you have idle time where you're not doing anything, and people tend to eat more when they're idle. So I'm a big fan of eating less during the day. I think as a culture, we snack too much during the day. We do a lot of mindless eating. So, eat less during the day. Doc, 43 today. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Best shape of my life. I'm happy to hear that. Doc's on Team Massive, and honestly, I had no idea you're 43. You look 33. I thought you were like early 30s. I've been part of Team Massive for over a year. Thank you. I appreciate that, and happy birthday. And I appreciate your support. And when I say you only look 33, that's literally what I thought your age was. If you say 5x5 is bad, and I don't say 5x5 is bad. I never said 5x5 is bad. But you don't offer any free. I have 5x5. Everything I have is free. I just put out a free program this week. Every program I have is free. I've written over 1,000 articles. I've written endless workouts. They're all free. I have a free 5x5 program, and I've never said 5x5 is bad. What I'm saying is strong lifts is a bad program for novices. So that's all I've ever said. But everything I've ever done is free. I've done 100. This is not exaggeration. I had the Muscle and Brawn forum. Then I was on the Muscle and Strength forum. They all pump you up forum. I've done over 100,000 forum posts. I answer questions all day on Instagram DMs. I answer questions all day on Team Massive. Every workout, I have tons of workouts on my website, superlivingtoday.com. Every one of them on there, except for maybe one or two exceptions, like the courses, the longer courses, are free in the videos. I made a video this week about, escalating training, and that's free. So, my whole channel is free information. All my workouts are on here for free. They might not be in the easiest form to digest, but I put them up here so you can screenshot them and get them. My goal is to help you guys, right? To give you guys, my passions to give you guys, to equip you guys with as much information as I can. But just to backtrack to your initial statement, I never said 5x5 is bad. It's not bad. There's no magic set and rep schemes. What I'm saying is it's not magic, right? But mostly what I say is the novice programs are not the best programs for people that want to power build, that want to build muscle and strength. And Jonathan said he has tons of free stuff on YouTube and on blogs. Correct. Steve, I swapped out bent over rows for seated rows because of back pain. Understandable. Feels better. What kind of bent over row are you doing? For dumbbell rows, I like the support of having one arm so I can really brace my core. I like to be standing up, not leaning on a bench, because if your knee is on a bench, you can't really control the height, so it can put your lower back in an awkward position. Barbell rows, I prefer pendley rows. You can lift the bar off the ground a little bit if you need to. Sometimes that can provide a little bit of leverage advantage, and that can really help with your lower back health. You don't have to do barbell rows, but I would say it's probably a good idea to have a barbell row, a T-bar row, or a dumbbell row in the mix at any given time. John, would you recommend the VersaGrip Pros for beginners? Yes, 100%. I'd recommend them for everybody. Elbow tendonitis is an overuse injury from all the gripping we do in lifting. So VersaGrip Pros, and the Pros have a longer flap, so they're easier to grip. That's the only reason I recommend the Pros. It's very likely if you remain a lifter, over the course of your life, that you are going to pick up elbow tendonitis from all the gripping. I would start right away. Good morning, Big Hairy Ugly Dude. And Frank Bill, just finished Donnybrook. Looking forward to reading more. Thank you for your support. Frank Bill, I don't have many friends in life. Frank's somebody I really respect. So I appreciate you guys at least checking out his stuff. Let's see. 5x5 is a good program. Many have built. Yep, muscle mass on it. Correct. You say it is bad. No, I don't say it is bad. I don't say it is bad because I want to sell programs. This is very reductionist. I don't say 5x5s are bad. I do not say 5x5s are bad. I have 5x5 programs. I say minimalist programs like strong lifts where you are squatting 3 times a week are not well-rounded and the best for beginners. But I don't care about the rep range. You're making assumptions. What's taking place here is I offended you because you either like strong lifts or you like starting strength, and they happen to be 5x5 programs. So you're making the leap thinking that because I don't like strong lifts or starting strength that I don't like 5x5s. So that's incorrect. That's not what I'm saying at all. I have nothing against 5x5s. Nothing. I have problems with those programs for beginners because they're not your best choice. They're not well-rounded. They focus too much on the big compound movements. People are not getting enough out of these compound movements as beginners. We need to take time, allow our lower back to strengthen. We need to work on form on our deadlifts and our squats before we start squatting 3 times a week. I'm just trying to sell programs. Dude, I've been doing this forever. So go fuck off with your judgment. I've been giving everything free as long as I can. Here's the reality. I'm going to be honest with you, bud, because you're making assumptions because I offended you and your little favorite program. First off, go fuck off. Okay. Don't come on my channel anymore. I don't need your bullshit. I work 12 to 14 hours a day, killing myself to help people because I care. I've been giving out free information as long as the internet's been the internet. And long before I made a fucking dollar, dude, I had a forum called Muscle and Brawn, and I would pay out of my pocket to keep the forum running. And it was free information. So I don't have to sell programs. Programs are not anything that I make my money off of. I put them out. Every program I make, I put out for free on here, first and foremost. So just end cap on that. Go fuck off. Everything's free, so go fuck yourself. In addition, I make it optional. If somebody wants a PDF copy and wants to support me, they can. So go fuck off. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Big, hairy, ugly dude. Any benefit from taking creatine? No. Wait. I read that as any downside. There's no real downside. Like the science isn't going to say this because, I mean, there's been studies on it, and I would say for most people, there's not a benefit. For me, I find I get better pumps when I take a little bit more creatine per day. So what is the downside of personal experience? Nothing really. I would give it a try and, see what you think. All right. Oops. Rico, good morning. Rico, how's it going? Eric, starting to just keep gripper at my desk and squeeze it hard 5 to 7 times. That's fine, man. Just pay attention that you're not aggravating elbow tendonitis, that you're recovering okay. A little bit of work spaced out is fine. Also join Team Massive. Thank you. TeamMassiveIron.com. Sign up for coaching. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support, Eric. Eric, would you want strong grip for barbell holdings? Do dead hangs. I think a gripper is I think dead hangs are quality, but being able to do, the captains of crush grip, those are something you can do apart from your workout. So I think that's a really good idea. Carlton's a client of mine. Good morning, Carlton. LV King, is it okay to have AB workouts in a body part split? Too many rows that I don't want. Yeah. What he's saying is, like, let's say your body part split on back day. Week 1, you start with a dumbbell row. Week 2, you could start with a barbell row. So an AB workout. Absolutely. In my opinion, you just don't want to get more than 2 weeks away from a lift like that. Would I do that with squats? No. Could you do it with bench and incline bench, kind of the same movement patterns? Yes. Oh, we got the herd of turtles. Bubba, what's going on, big Bubba? What's going on, Bubba? Deadlifts I find okay to work every other week as long as the off week or the alternating week I have something in that's really challenging my yoke, like power shrugs, rack pulls, something. So AB workouts are absolutely fine. Just I really don't like to get more than 7-8 days out from a squat. Bench, if you're alternating bench and incline bench, you don't have to do bench every week. You're not going to lose strength. It's kind of the same movement pattern. Tim, 4K race. Any tips? Not really. I mean, just don't eat anything unusual the night before a big event because you don't want your stomach upset. Eat just a normal workman meal, whatever you normally eat, whatever you know doesn't mess with your stomach. Go to bed hydrated, not overhydrated. Make sure you have a little bit of sodium. When you get up in the morning, have some water, some sodium first thing out of bed, maybe some simple carbs, and you should be good to go. All right, MCM. Why do I sometimes feel more energetic? Good question. The body is weird, isn't it? There is one thing that, and this probably is not applicable, but I'm just going to mention this since we're talking about sleep. And that is, there is some research, and I'm not saying this is a holy grail or the definitive answer or the case for everyone, but there's some research that says it's as important. This is just some research, as important to sleep the same time, right? Than just the duration. So if you slept from 12 to 6, 12 to 6, you're not jumping around from 6 hours to 8 hours to 6 hours to 10 hours. Consistent sleep is just as important as sleep duration. Some of it can be rhythms and patterns. I'm no sleep expert. Last night I got to bed at 1:30. Me and my wife watched the movie The Covenant, and we were up late. We were up later than we expected. It was a 2-hour movie. It was good, and I had like 5.5 hours of sleep. I feel like I feel pretty rough this morning, but sometimes you start off feeling rough and you wake up. So I don't know, man. I'm no sleep expert. James, if muscle mass is main goal, should we try for one? This is highly personal. If you do it, just do it right. There's just know the downsides, right? If you're going to play with fire, know you might get burned. I'm not going to tell anybody not to test their 1 rep max. I've certainly done it over the years, but you got to know that if you put that card in play, there's going to be other cards in play. There's possible downsides. The closer you get to your 1 rep max, the more things can go wrong. And anybody that watches a powerlifting meet will understand that a lot of things can go wrong. Adam, started my first serious cut last week, down 3 pounds in a week. I feel like I'm really struggling. It's normal. And 2,500 is pretty high for a cut. So I'm not telling you need to drop it any lower, but what you probably experience is water weight loss. And you're probably going to need to go a little bit deeper. Will you get used to the deficit? The more you do it, the more you'll mentally get used to it. But yeah, you're going to feel like crap during your workouts. You have less glycogen in the muscles, less energy. Maybe you're taking in less sodium during the day, less electrolytes. So yeah, but that's okay. Remember, the goal is to lose the weight. Use this as motivation. Get the weight off and get back on track. Don't be one of these guys that's like, like a boo-boo baby where you have a bad day on a cut and you don't want to have a bad workout, so you eat more and then you extend your cut, way too long. Stein, book sounds great. Talking about Frank Bill's book. Rob M., I want to read that book. I read Donnybrook. Thank you guys for supporting my good friend Frank Bill. Again, if you guys want a copy of his new book, I have 10 copies, Back to the Dirt. And I'm giving them away. I'll ship those anywhere in the world on my dime. You can email me, benthebarman@gmail.com, or slide into my DM. Neo, how's it going, Neo? Client of mine. Paul, how's it going, Paul? How many reps of body weight pull-ups can you do before you add weight? I would say this. I'm not trying to make rules, so I don't want anybody to get angry, because we're not trying to go to war over this. But if you should probably be able to do 2 sets of 10 body weight really, really solidly with good control, 2 to 10, 2 to 12, before you even consider micro loading weight. And if you load weight, don't go from 0 to 25. Go up slowly, right? Go to 5 and move up to 10. You don't have to do 2.5s unless you're like me and are super anal. Alonzo, Monday back buys, Tuesday chest tries, Wednesday legs, Thursday shoulders. That's fine. The only thing I'm going to say, Alonzo, is do not hesitate to add in an extra rest day anywhere in there if you are feeling beat up. 4 days in a row is a big, big menu, right? It's a lot to digest. So you have a structure, that's good. But if you need a break, if you feel beat up or you didn't get good sleep, you can add a rest day in. You can add extra rest days as much as you want. As long as you're doing that workout once a week, you're going to be fine. So I just realized I got my hat, and over there, that's my running hat. You can see kind of all the salt on it. That's my running hat. This is my normal hat. Not salty yet. And that's my backup hat. Right. I got hats. So I buy every one of these. I like the hat. It just fits good. Everything Frank wrote is phenomenal. Frank Bill. Once you pick up a book, you simply can't put it down. And Back to the Dirt can't even begin to describe it. Read it and see it and feel for yourself. I appreciate you guys saying that. I have to read it. I read the first chapter, but I got to read the whole thing. And just, he's a good buddy of mine. And a good guy, a lifter, a runner. So if you want the book, I'll send it to you. If you want to support him, you can get it on Amazon or anywhere else. Harut. What's going on, Harut? You're a little bish. You blocked me after talking smack. I challenge you to a duel. I'm a little bish. You blocked me after talking smack. I usually only block idiots. So if you get blocked on my channel, you'd probably be an idiot, but thank you. I appreciate it. Where are we at? James, would it be okay to bulk up 25%? Oh, let me read this. Would it be okay to bulk up to 25% from 16 for max mass and then cut back? You can bulk as much as you want. I probably wouldn't let your weight go above 230, 240. That's kind of the danger zone for men. But I mean, you can go as much as you want. I wouldn't go above 25%. It's certainly okay. I would make sure you have a controlled bulk. I would make sure it's nice and controlled and that it's not super rapid. I mean, if you're going to try to gain 5 pounds a month, it's just simply too rapid. You're not going to get any extra mass out of it. Let's say in a perfect world, you gain 10 pounds of muscle this year, which is pretty solid, right? That's 10 pounds of muscle in a year. That would be a really good year for most of us. If you're putting on 2 pounds a month during a bulk, that's 24 pounds. So you can see going up to like an aggressive bulk or 4 to 5 pounds a month, it's just going to be a fat bulk. So if you're going to do that, you want to take it nice and slow and steady. Ernie, can you describe a full day of eating on a lifting day? My lifting days and running days are pretty much the same. What I do is I get up. Usually this is the first thing I grab, an energy drink, for better or for worse. And I keep chicken sausages. I believe they're Applewood, something. I forget the name of them. Those are pretty lower calorie. I can eat a whole pack for like 300, 350. Or 2 Greek yogurts and some fruit. Usually I have 3, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. I'll eat like the chicken sausages or something light for breakfast. sometimes a 1 bar if I'm sloppy or if it's a Friday. That'll be like 350, and then 2 Greek yogurts and fruit. That'll be like 200, so that's like 550. A lot of times I'll have one of those pure protein drinks just to fill in the gaps. That'll bring me up to like 700. If I don't have a pure protein drink, sometimes I'll have a high protein frozen meal from like Kroger, something like about 400 calories. That I don't do that often. I have some in the fridge. I try to keep my calories during the day under 1,000. So those are my staples. I'll kind of mix and match those on a given day. 2 Greek yogurts and some frozen berries, some chicken sausages, a frozen meal of 350 to 400 calories with high protein, or a pure protein drink. Those are kind of my staples. Every now and then I'll throw in a 1 bar. I'm trying to do that less and less. Birthday cake flavor. So I try to stay between 800 and 1,000 calories. And my last meal is usually no later than 1, and I usually lift from 5 to 6. I have no problem lifting fasted. Once I get into the gym, I'm just able to lift. It's usually not an issue. But after that, my dinner is almost always the same thing. It's either ground bison, ground venison, or ground wild boar from Force of Nature Meats. And I'll have that with rice or instant potatoes, minute rice or instant potatoes, and jalapenos, of course, a few diced veggies, and that'll put me around 1,000. So usually 1,800 to 2,000 calories. And with the biggest meal coming usually right after I lift. Jason, if you can drop one F-bomb in any Star Wars film, what would it be? I don't know, maybe the original, right? Let's say, Darth Vader's walking in the hallway and Princess Leia's there and she says, fuck, right? I don't know. I don't really watch Star Wars, I'll be honest with you. I've watched the first 2, but it's not my thing. Don't hate. I'm not hating anybody who likes it. 1-letter name. I'm 14. I started going to the gym. I deadlifted and got to 100 pounds. Body weight 55 kilos. Well, I'm glad at your age you are working out. Just stay consistent with it. Don't try to 1-rep max. Be safe. Be smart. Would you ever recommend anyone do incline bench before? Yeah, you can. Order doesn't matter at all, man. In my heyday, I would do incline 1 week and flat the next. You can do whatever. There's no rules. Those are 2 big hitting exercises. So if you wanted to do inclines first, there's no downside. Just adjust your flat bench afterwards accordingly. How far to go back on seated cable? When does it become more of a trap exercise? Don't overthink muscle groups on these exercises. Think proper form, proper execution, and whatever muscles they work, that's okay, right? Because we're hitting the back, the traps, the lats with a battery of exercises, right? So don't worry about putting everything in the little tidy body part boxes. We want to avoid that. We want to put together a good battery of exercises, attack. On the seated cable row, I move forward, I get a little bit of stretch in my back and lats. Then I focus on driving my shoulders and elbows back, and my torso will move back slightly as I'm doing that, right? As I'm pulling the bar here. But I don't worry about traps, lats, back, whatever. I worry about good feel, good control, if that makes sense. You mentioned you recently tried the lat prayer. I've been using the lat prayer a lot the last 4 months. The lat prayer is something that I wouldn't say I pushed to failure. I use it kind of, if I get too intense with the lat prayer, you're going to call into play a little bit too much of your triceps. So that's just part and parcel because elbow rotation is part and parcel, is part of the long function of the long head of the triceps, right? So with a lat prayer, I like to use it as a pre-fatigue or kind of a post-fatigue after lat pull downs. Lately, I've been using it before lat pull downs. Just getting a real good 3x12, 3 sets by 12, and then slowly progressing, in a safe zone without, being right at failure. Does that make sense? I'm skinny fat and have skinny arms and a fat belly. I want to be aesthetic. First thing one letter name you mentioned, you're 14. The only thing I can say is focus on cleaning up your diet. Move to removing the junk food, the fast food, the sugar drinks as much as possible. I would not cut. I would just work on cleaning up your diet and eating to satiety or until you're full using good foods. Raphael, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I know you should try to eat real food, but I'm short on time. Two-way shakes is fine. I mean, there's good, better, best. I use instant potatoes. I use minute rice. Is that as good as regular potatoes? Probably not. Is it better than eating Doritos as a carb source? Probably, right? So, yeah, that's fine, man. 80-20 rule. 80 real foods, 20% fill in the cracks. While doing the lat pull downs, can I concentrate on the lats versus upper back? When I do lat pull downs, I just focus on form and let what's going to be worked, get worked. I think that's the key thing we have to think about when we are looking at any exercise is don't worry about what body parts are involved. It's a compound movement. You're going to have different body parts involved. We need to worry about proper execution and control of the movement and let the body parts. So this is why I advocate like about 4 exercises per major body part per week. Because if you have a well-rounded approach, maybe one exercise is going to hit the lats more than the back. One's going to hit the rhomboids more than the lats. But if you have a good exercise selection, it's going to build a good quality, well-rounded physique. And we don't have to overthink it. Does that make sense? So focus on form and focus on good control and hard sets. LV, do you flare your elbows out during vertical pulls or do you try to keep them? A vertical pull is like this. So I try to keep them natural. You don't want to flare them out like this, right? This is just awkward. We want to have natural movements when we're doing a vertical pull or really any movement. We want it to feel natural. When we force unnatural angles, we're usually putting weird stressors on our shoulders and other things. Does that make sense? What's the quickest way to figure out where starting weight should be for a new lifter? You want to go moderate, if I'm starting a new lift or trying a new lift or haven't lifted in a while and returning to a new lift, I go moderate and then I just adjust up from there, so wherever you just go super moderate. It's okay to waste a set or waste 2 sets or waste a workout. I wouldn't call it wasting. You're kind of dialing in things. What's the best? There is no best training program. I have 4 days to work out. I have an upper posterior. You can search on the main channel of this site. Let me go over to YouTube since we had a big rant today about somebody telling me I don't like 5x5s, right? Let me pull this up. I want to show you guys. I give away my programs for free. And if you go over to the front page of my YouTube channel and you go to the search and let's say, what do we want to search? Let's just search upper posterior. How to build an upper posterior done in real time. For those of you that For the viewer that thought I was like the devil and just trying to make money, this builds an actual workout in real time. This is my upper posterior split, and I'm pretty sure I go over a real workout in there. Complete guide structuring an upper lower. I just have so many workouts on here about. Look, here's the 5x5 for. Let me
We're on this.
let me mute this. The 5x5. Since we had I gotta let the ad run. Since we had a viewer who was had the false belief that I didn't like 5x5s. Let me let this ad run. Whatever we got here, Viator travel. I don't. Maybe it thinks I'm going to travel somewhere. Oh, we got to watch another one. 2, 1. Okay. So this is the power building 5x5. You can see I have it detailed on this board. It might not be fancy. It's not in sexy PDF format, but I give away my workouts for free. And, I always do on this channel. If you scroll down, usually you can see you can get the PDF if you want it. But no one's, I'm giving it away for free. So if you want the PDF, if you want the fancy version, you can have it. So anyway, enough about that. Thoughts on Andrew Huberman? I'm sus of his. I've seen a lot of chatter about Andrew. I don't really watch Andrew a lot, much at all. Who are my go-to guys on YouTube? Like who do I watch? Alex Hormozy sometimes just for business stuff, and Chris Williamson sometimes. Not V-Shred, right? The Rogan podcast. Jordan Peterson, I'm always interested in what he has to say. Huberman, I don't know. If you guys have a concept from Huberman you want me to address, post it up. I know there's some chatter lately about Huberman, but I haven't had a chance to watch the videos with me moving house, so maybe you guys can fill me in. We got about 10 questions left, guys, so if you have any more questions, go ahead and post them up now. I'll stay on as long as you guys have questions, even if you want to call me an idiot like we had today for somebody getting blocked. I assure you, somebody had hard feelings for getting blocked, but, that's the way it is. Occasionally you get somebody that's just crude in the comments or that just continually, like the viewer we had on today, was like, you hate 5x5s. Like, no, I don't hate 5x5s. Calm down. I've said about 1 million times on this channel, there are no magic set and rep schemes, but occasionally, excuse me, I'll get somebody in the comments who will make who'll have no life, and they'll post 25 comments on 25 videos. Like, you hate 5x5. You're an idiot. Like, thank you, but no, I don't. And after a point, I'm going to be honest, after a point, you get tired of I'm not going to respond to this. So you just send the person off. Go bother somebody else. Because when people start spreading misinformation in my comment section, it confuses you guys. And then I'll get questions like, why do you hate 5x5s? Like, I don't hate 5x5s. I think Strong Lift is the worst novice program that I've ever seen. And I stand by that firmly. And some people don't like to hear that. Then don't use my program. Use Strong Lift 5x5. It's not the 5x5 I don't like. But anyway, blocking people, yeah, occasionally I do. So anyway, what was I talking? I'm just babbling right now. Thank you, sir, for answering my Instagram question about elbow pain. Just ordered new VersaGrips. My pleasure. And thank you for supporting my channel. Bighorn Frog, thanks for doing this every week. Thank you for watching. We're doing a seated overhead press, whether with dumbbells or a barbell. Should you lock out? I always lock out. I don't really think about locking out. I just think about going all the way up. I don't think about physically locking out the elbow. I think about pressing all the way up. Am I completely locked out? No, I'm not. I press up, but I'm probably just that away from. I don't do that purposely. I don't like purposely. I got to lock out my elbows. Um, so I try to keep the movement natural feeling when I press up. I don't feel like I'm perfectly locking out my elbows. That's not the goal. So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Big Ben, a client of mine. Have you checked out Monkey Feet? I have checked them out. I've never personally used them yet. It's probably something I will get for my home gym just to experiment with because I like to have personal experience. But I believe when I initially looked at them during the pandemic, there was everybody was buying them, and I believe the 2 weeks I heavily looked at them, they were out of stock. Because everybody had bought them. So I really hadn't circled back since then. Would you recommend doing trap bar shrugs on back day? Either way is fine. As long as you're recovered before your next back or trap day. So let's say you do trap bar shrugs on leg day, and then 3 days later deadlifts. Are you fully recovered? Yes, then that's fine. I just wouldn't do them like the day before. Simon, thank you, sir. Good to see you, and thank you for being a part of Team Massive. Ernie, saw your video on focusing on 20 exercises the coming year, but what if I can only work out 2 to 3 times a week? That's okay. It's the premise for those of you guys watching, the premise of the video was instead of focusing on programs per se, and it's not that we can't have a program, we want a reasonable program, but focus on like 20 exercises you really want to work hard this year, not just progress and get strong, but you want to train hard at and get stronger in those exercises. And if you can only work out 2 to 3 times a week, that's fine. You could work in some A-B splits, right? So you can have an upper A, posterior A, upper B, posterior B, and you can have A-B splits. So if you're only going to work out 2 to 3 times a week, you might want to have some minor A-B variations worked in. You don't have to overstuff it. You don't have to overdo it, but it's probably not a bad idea. But if you can't hit 20 exercises specifically, that's okay. Can I dumbbell bench my way up? Well, it's certainly a great assistance exercise. The problem with theoretical questions like this is I don't know anybody that has spent 3 years just dumbbell benching and then moved over to like bench. I would say if I was only allowed to dumbbell bench for 12, 18, 24 months, and I got really strong at them, when I moved over a bench, it would take me probably a month to acclimate to the different types of in my body, to acclimate to the little bit of difference between the movements. But I'm pretty sure I'd be pretty darn strong because my shoulders would be stronger, my triceps would be stronger, and my chest would be stronger. So it'll definitely help a lot. Adam, follow up to my question about cutting at 2,500. I sent you a message on Instagram. You advised to cut at 2,500. Now, what I'm saying, that was a good starting point, Adam, like 2,500. But if you've only lost 3 pounds, there's a good chance that was just the initial water weight, right? And if it doesn't continue to go down from there, you might have to cut more. So we want to see that initial water loss. That's a good sign. You dropped your calories, you lost a little bit of water. That's a good sign. From there, if it doesn't continue to go down in the next 7 to 10 days, then I would. But I would not be quick to just cut calories. Watch the next 7 to 10 days, and you want to see at least a pound down. But you can update me. Got sick and lost 20 pounds. I didn't stop training or lose any work capacity, but I'm having trouble bulking back up. When it comes to weight gain, we have to understand the rules. The rules are to gain weight, we need X amount of calories, whatever that is for you. So you have to determine what that calorie level is based on what the scale is doing. Scale not moving, more calories. Scale not moving, more calories. So once you have determined that calorie level, you have to fill it in with foods you like. It's really as simple as that. Write down, get on your computer, write a list of all the good foods you like to eat. And then from there, make meals. That's all we can do. Ernie, would you consider yourself to be a blue collar type of dude? Well, Ernie, I will tell you this. I grew up in a very blue collar world. My dad worked in a leather factory and a cheese plant. Um, all my friends were in a blue collar world. I mean, I grew up in a world where there was a lot of poverty and a lot of uh, desolation, not a lot of hope. Probably the best way to put it. I had my best friend when I was 16 was murdered by his stepfather, his alcoholic stepfather. One of my neighbors went to prison for armed robbery and got out after like 12 years and blew his head off. I was just kind of in that world. You know, I know it's over. I hate to even mention it because like it's so overplayed in the modern era. Like people wear it as a badge almost to come from, you know, not so great environments. That's what I grew up in. A lot of alcoholism, a lot of abuse, a lot of poverty. My mom worked in a laundry room at a retirement home, just a hot laundry room from pennies above minimum wage her whole life. You know, we didn't have a lot of things. That was just our life. I'm not trying to play that card, you know, but I was a latchkey kid. I didn't understand life too well. I didn't have a dad there to show me how to change oil. I didn't have anybody show me how to balance a checkbook. I'm not playing a little violin. But when I hit 18, I know shit about life, you know. So I went off to college and I liked lifting more than I liked going to class. And I ended up joining the Army for 3 years. I had a 3-year tour. And then from there, I got out and I worked blue collar jobs. After I got out of the Army, I sold cars for 2 years in Richmond, Virginia. And then I worked in a plating plant running the shipping. I was waiting for him to bark. Running the shipping department. And, you know, I worked a lot of blue collar. I drove the mobile hearing unit for a hospital for like 5 years doing hearing tests, respiratory tests, blue collar, white collar, whatever, you know. I worked as a machinist after that. I had a mix of jobs trying to find my way in life until I started writing and lifting. So I certainly didn't come from money. And I'm certainly not trying to glorify or glamorize, you know, how I grew up, but you know, I grew up in a blue collar world, you know, blue collar people. So, you know, do I have, as I get older, do I have an appreciation for nicer things? Man, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was thinking about this last night and if you guys are still on, just post up your questions. I'll get to them. I'm going to go off script a little bit here, but you know, I literally work my ass off. I love what I do. I sit here all day long answering questions, client questions, team massive questions, your questions now. This is what I love to do, man. And if anything, you know, I work too much. But, you know, nowadays, like growing up in that world where we didn't have a lot of money, we always had crap, you know, just crap of everything, right? So when I buy something now, I want it to last. I want it to be decent. I don't want it to be a piece of shit, right? You know, I value. I'm not a things type of guy, but I value getting something a little bit better than just trash. I appreciate, like, life to me is like an adventure. I appreciate a good cigar. I appreciate a good beer because it's like an adventure, exploring all the different things we have in life. Uh, you know, Growing up how I did and being able to explore those things, it's not like, some people do it for pretentious reasons. For me, life is just one big adventure. I like trying new foods. I like trying new cigars. I like trying new beers. I like going new places. I like meeting new people. I like seeing new gyms. That's what it's all about for me. Question on your 2-day workout. Can I run it as a yeah, you could run a 2-day as a 3. You just alternate A, B, as long as you're recovering fine. If you need to work in any, alternative exercises, you could. Horned Frog, I'm closing in at age 69 and have gotten more concerned about using proper form to avoid injuries. Can I pay for your time? I review the occasional one-off form video I review for free. You can send that on Instagram at Ben the Barman. If you guys want to join Team Massive, and you can find it at teammassiveiron.com, teammassiveiron.com. Anybody on Team Massive Iron can post up to 4 form videos a week. So I can do an occasional video. I do that on Instagram at Ben the Barman for free. Anybody that sends me a video on Instagram, I review it. I haven't had anybody abuse it, so I'm happy to do so. But if you would like to put a couple dollars in my pocket a month and allow me to help you at a little bit greater level on Team Massive Iron, you certainly can do so. Where are we? What's going on? Are you done?
Oh, finally.
Finally?
Well,
are you working or are you
I
not
got
working?
heaps of work to do. I had 3 appointments.
What's a heap?
Heaps of work to do. Come here. Oh.
What's a heap? Heaping, helping?
Big rubber dog.
That's our fat sausage. So in Australia, they instead of saying I have a lot of work, they say I have heaps. Heaps.
My big fat sausage
What are you
dog.
making all those? Are you making those noises? Sound like you're gonna puke on me.
No, he's yawning.
He's a little bit fired up. So
little cheese.
That's my little boy. Buddy boy, oh, come here, little boy.
He's a wag boy.
Yeah.
He's a waggly.
So say something in Australia for the fans.
Bloody oath.
Can you tell them what you told? You called? No, you better not say that. No.
Would you even? Oh, someone's sleepy. Would you even tell them that I was so rude?
I dropped that ding donger from the boiler on the floor.
Oh shit!
I don't want the dogs to get it.
And this is big old Snoop Dogg.
That's Snoop Dogg.
Big old.
This guy's a strong little sausage right
Oh
here.
my god, he's a warrior.
Yeah, he's a big
Casanova boy.
He's a handsome little chap.
He is. He's gonna go with all the girls.
All right.
He's mama's boy. He's a Suki. He cries.
A Suki. Lately, I'm starting to feel some pain in my elbows when doing triceps work. Been using more or less the same weight. The thing about the elbow is that.
Do you want me to get under the table?
Yeah, if you can get that thing down there. I dropped something on the floor and I don't want the dogs to eat it. When you do like compound movements that hit the triceps, usually the elbows are more or less okay. When you do more isolation style, usually sometimes the connective tissue
I'll put it up here.
in and around the triceps can bother you a little bit. So you might want to adjust your triceps exercise a little bit. If they just took it back out. My wife brought their cushion in and they just took it out again. You might want to adjust exercises. There's so many good tricep exercises. So if one's bothering you, I'd probably swap it out. Doc, can you explain the 10-minute deadlift protocol and how to progress? I like the idea, but of doing this to get in the volume, but limit the excessive amount of time doing straight sets can take. How do you choose the appropriate rep goal? Usually the 10-minute deadlift protocol basically is you have a 10-minute block of time. You start your clock, you start your phone. Instead of doing rep work, we do singles or doubles. Do a single or a double, release the bar, stand up, shake it out. take a deep breath. When you're ready, do another single or double. So you want to see how many quality reps you can get in 10 minutes. Now, by doing this, we're always resetting form. So we're working on form. So we get to work on form a little bit better. We get to repeat, work on form, work on setup, which is a good benefit. We also don't get limited from a cardiovascular standpoint because we're not going 6, 7, 8 reps deep, right? We're not being limited from a cardiovascular standpoint. Plus, doing singles or doubles, we're not really hitting the lower back as hard because the lower back is usually, not always, the weaker muscle in the deadlift. You have the glutes, you have the hips, you have the quads, you have the back, you have the traps, you have all these big, strong muscle groups in the deadlift. And when you go deeper into a set, the weaker muscle group usually gets hit the hardest. In many cases, it's the lower back. So by doing a 10-minute rest pause protocol, we're giving some rest for the lower back. Does that make sense? What I typically recommend is you start out with 14. When you hit 14 or more reps in 10 minutes, you add weight. You add 5 pounds slowly. And once I get clients that get to the point where they can only do 10 or 12 reps with this protocol, it's usually by then they've added a good 30, 40 pounds of their deadlift and they've gotten a lot out of it, and it might be time to just give it a break for a little bit. Does that make sense? You can also do, like, 10 minutes is not magic. You can do 5, you can do 8, you can do 9, you can do 7. Just kind of a general guideline. In your new house, is your new house move-in ready? No. My new house is, once the permit goes through, and that's going to be any day now, they have 160 days to finish it. And going to be a big basement. It's going to be a complete gym in the basement and a place for me to film. So I'm going to be doing a lot of training stuff down there. I'm really going to be focused on that. So content's really going to be changing. I'm going to be doing more hands-on training videos and stuff like that. So can we see the home gym when ready? Yeah, it's. I'm going to put together a nice home gym as much as I can afford and do, and it's really going to be I'm going to have it like the ultimate home gym. I'm going to paint the walls the way I want, put the stuff in the stuff, have the things, have all I want. It's going to be like my bottoms up, built from the ground up home gym, and it's going to be my ultimate home gym. It's going to have everything I can reasonably afford to put in there. Andrew, started mixing at 100 push-ups a day, no negative effects, and possibly an increase. Office type of work, you can do like paused squats. You can get over and do paused body weight squats. You can do push backs. If you don't want to do push ups every day, you can do push backs. On my channel, I believe if you go to the main page of my channel, and let me verify this. Because I don't want to lead you guys. If you search from the main page of my channel, push space back, you'll get the push back. Okay. You can do those. They're kind of a push-up variation. You can do dips between chairs. If you really want to get funky, you can do shoulder tap planks. You can do door rows. You can put one hand on the door frame and row yourself in if you're capable of doing that. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. Do you ever cut down to 6-pack abs? Well, Dallas, I started at 346 pounds when I was a big fat power lifter, and I cut down to my low, I think was 238. And I had like 4 abs coming in. I'm just not really an abs guy. Life could change. Maybe I want to sustain it. Right now, I want to get down leaner. I've been cutting. I want to get down leaner and leaner. Just as a new goal, but the goal isn't necessarily, six-pack abs. Just honestly, like the pandemic sucked for everybody, right? And it was like to the point in Ohio where they had curfews and they want you running in certain times or whatever. I don't remember all the nonsense, but it really messed with us, with our habits and our daily routine. And I just want to get back in the best shape I've ever been, whatever that means as far as a six pack. I'm not trying to be, super shredded, but for health and longevity and for filming, I'd like to be around 210. Where do you see the fitness industry, social YouTube stuff in the next 10 years? Can anything really change dramatically? Trends always come. You never know what they're going to be. We saw the swing from body part splits when I first got in the industry. Initially, it was body part splits and can you even build muscle on a full body, right? That was how people thought, some of them. And then it swung over to minimalism. So I don't know, man. I'm working hard to keep the industry focused on. I think we have a robust history right now. So the base we're building right now is the strongest it's ever been from a muscle and strength building standpoint. For anybody that's paying attention, I think we have a very robust, solid base. So there's always going to be really weird fringe things. You're always going to have somebody that's going to show up to the party with six-pack abs and teach everybody some ridiculous new exercises. That's a waste of time, but excuse me. MCM top 3 must-have pieces of equipment in a home gym. Now, obviously, you need a rack. So, do you need a full squat rack? No. You can have one of the single racks like I sell at The Massive Fitness. One of the smaller racks, like a rack stand. An adjustable bench and a barbell are a must. Beyond that, I gravitate towards some sort of a dumbbell setup and some sort of a cable station, an easy bar. Those would be the next 3 things I would get. You can have the wall, not the wall mounted cable station, but a reasonable cable station. And it doesn't take up a lot of space. It can just add in lat pull downs and tricep extensions, some fun stuff. Seated cable rows without taking up a lot of space. Adam, thanks, Steve. I really appreciate all you do. Thank you, sir. Would beginners? Yes, absolutely. That's all I've ever done, my friend. It's not the split that matters. There's this fear that you guys have been programmed with that somehow a body part split wouldn't be good for beginners. That's a lie. Splits don't matter. Use the split you want. Steve, I just joined Team Massive. After my workday is over, I'll start looking over. Check out the workouts and PDFs and the articles. There's a lot of good stuff hidden in there, and you do have to search. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, guys, I have about 7 questions left. So last call. If you want to get a question and get it now. What advice would you give to a person who wants to start a small business? Number 1, don't fall into the pit. I'm not sure if you want to do a brick and mortar retail, online, what you want to do, but don't go buying 1,000 different things. Like my wife started a seamstress business. And she didn't do all the fancy decorating and all this and that, and spending $20,000 on making the building look pretty. She established a business first and then kind of built things up. So I've spent 5 years in a downtown area, and I've seen a lot of small businesses start up and spend a ton of money on shit for their business. back patios. If we only put in the back patio, this is going to allow our business to explode. Establish your business concept first before you start spending money on it. Make sure you understand how much money you need to make per month. Understand that a small business, you're not going to be rich. My wife's a seamstress and one of the best in the area, and she's only one person, right? She does wedding dresses and prom dresses, and she's one of the best in the state at what she does. But it's tough for her to make more than $3,500 a month. She only has so much time. Maybe a dumb question, but are we as big as we look when we have a full pump? A full pump is like a glimpse at our future self that we wish, right? I mean, my arms can pump up an inch, my legs, I don't know, a half inch. But we're like 1% lower than that when we're not pumped. Let's put it that way. Tips for structuring a bro split for beginners. Probably you have to know that you start with a 4-day split. You're going to have to work out 4 days a week. I would start out with chest, triceps, back, biceps, legs, and delts and traps. And then you can throw in abs and calves wherever you want. Structure about 4 exercises for chest, delts, back, and legs, quads. And pick your 4 from hard to easier and structure them in the workout system, hard to easier. Probably 6 sets for triceps, biceps, and hamstrings starting out. And then from there, you can kind of go into the gym and see how much time you have to add calves and abs and all that kind of stuff. That's my best quick tips for a bro split. May have developed triceps tendonitis. Triceps tendonitis is pretty rare. I would have to know where you're experiencing it. It might be elbow tendonitis. I've not heard of triceps tendonitis. So all I can say is if you have an exercise that bothers you, don't do it. How do we make friends at the gym? I would say if you want to make friends anywhere, just show up regularly. Don't be a douche, right? Don't be obnoxious. Stay in the weeds. Be polite. And the right type of people will gravitate towards you. If you see somebody doing something good, say, hey, nice squat, man. I mean, just be real. That's my advice. Do you live in a rural area where you need to drive a truck? Right now I live in a smaller city outside of Cincinnati. I grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up right by Lake Winnebago in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Lake Winnebago is the largest inland lake in the United States. And where I lived before I moved out was literally like 200 yards away from the lake. In Wisconsin, our culture is hunting and fishing. As you can imagine, Lake Winnebago, the largest inland lake in the United States, fishing, ice fishing, sturgeon spearing, walleye fishing, you name it. Big deer hunters, right? Big hunters in Wisconsin. Hunting, fishing, bow hunting, you name it. And I lived outside of the city. I had some land. And that was my life until I got divorced. And I've spent my free time is always in the woods, hiking, running. I used to do panning for gold. I lived up in the panhandle of Idaho for a while near Montana, Lolo National Park. I've been in the Army. I was on the night land navigation team. I like being outdoors, man. It's just what I do. That's why I trail run. So I don't need a truck right now, but we're building a home, so I've considered a truck, but I don't need a truck. I don't really have time to hunt or fish right now. Just I'm old and I'm doing what I do, man, helping people with lifting, and that's my priority right now. Thank you. I appreciate it. Your thoughts on using 3-phase bench press for squats, 3-phase bench program. I would have to relook. I'm going to be honest. I'd have to relook at the program and see if there's any things I would tweak for the squats. Devlin, if you could, just so we can continue this conversation, if you can go over to Instagram or email me, benthebarman@gmail.com, with the link to the program, and I will tell you my thoughts on it, just so I know it's you. James, would you please consider doing a live AV posterior workout creation for your home gymmers? What if I did like a private one? I've thought about doing private ones, ones that wouldn't really go over well in a live video, and maybe, charging like, I don't know, $15 to get in. Would that be okay? I don't know. I could do free ones, I've thought about it. So yeah, definitely consider. The more niche something is, the more you kind of want to, make it. If you put it out in the mass market, like how to build a workout with just a barbell and just a barbell and body weight workout, there's not going to be a lot of guys that would tune in. So it might have to be a little bit more niche. All right, guys, that's it. I appreciate you watching. I'm here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Please, if you get the time, please head over to my website, superlivingtoday.com. Search gym bag if you want a new gym bag. I got some great massive iron gym bags. You can check out the workout tab if you want to work out. You can, I'd love to work with you if you need help with coaching. Please check out the coaching tab. This is my slower time of year, meaning people tend to pick back up on bulking season. I keep pretty much a full client base, but I do have room for a couple people right now. So if you're interested in coaching, I'm with you every single day. And please, on Instagram, just check out @BenTheBarman. Post up your questions in the DM. I'd be glad to help. And Team Massive Fitness, or teammassiveiron.com. Please come join us. It's the best community on the internet. And that is no lie. All right, guys, I appreciate you joining me. We'll see you next Friday. And have a good weekend. Stay out of trouble. And we are out.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.